One of the hardest things on the screenwriting journey is just getting answers to the questions that you have. I mean, sometimes the information you find is contradictory and results in confusion. So we're going to deal with 10 common questions about screenwriting, and I'm not mincing words because I prefer not to do that. I shoot straight, and I do understand where a lot of these questions come from, okay? I get it. But one note here at the beginning, some of these are the way wrong question, and that should hopefully make a little more sense as we go along. So here we go. Number one, what software is the best software? Well, the real answer is whichever screenwriting software helps you best tell the story that will also export the script as a PDF. Now, what you might be led to believe is that Final Draft is the best software because people will say it's the industry standard. Well, it's not the industry standard. PDFs are the industry standard, unless your script is going into production, at which point you might need to worry about Final Draft. And then you might just have to submit a script as an FDX file, a Final Draft file. My best recommendation, though, is that you use software that makes sense for you, that will export your script as a PDF, and that will export your script as an FDX file if you don't tend to buy Final Draft. I mean, personally, I don't use Final Draft. I use Fade In, which exports both to PDFs and to Final Draft files. And if someone needs me to work in Final Draft, they are paying me, and I don't mind going out and buying the newest version of Final Draft. I'm happy to do that because they're already paying me money. As long as you can export a PDF, you're fine. There's no industry standard. Use the best software that fits your budget, that fits you, and you'll be fine. Question number two, does screenplay format really matter? Is water wet? Yes, format matters. Now, do you have to get format 100% right 100% of the time? No, but you do need to be consistent. You do need to follow the conventions, especially as a new writer. And what you really need to understand is why the formatting rules exist in the first place. I mean, if you understand the reasoning for the formatting convention, then you can know how and when to break it. One additional thing here, if you haven't sold a script, why would you format something weirdly in your screenplay anyway? I mean, this gives someone an easy excuse to kick your script from consideration. Don't make it easy for them to say no to you. Don't give them any excuse. Play within the conventions. Show you understand the formatting conventions and establish that you are someone who honors the screenwriting craft. Don't make it harder on yourself. Number three, is it really 1 page equals 1 minute? Well, ultimately, yes. Now, when you look at any one single page, of course, some are going to play out longer than a minute, some are going to play shorter than a minute. Of course, that happens. However, over the course of the entire screenplay, it does pretty much average out to 1 minute per page. Now, some caveats here, because this really strictly applies to American Standard pages, which are 8.5 by 11. Some of you, I know, use A4 size paper. It is slightly narrower and taller, so you can technically get more on the page because of the economy of screenwriting. So A4 scripts run slightly longer, not much, but a little. Now, do you need to worry about this 1 page equals 1 minute guideline? Well, yes and no. I mean, it does help you with pacing. It helps you understand pacing. Like, hey, I want this to happen over about 5 minutes, and so in 5 pages you should be doing something else. So in that sense, it kind of helps you. Formatting actually helps you adhere to that kind of standard without really having to worry about it too much, though. However, if you're writing action, and in your mind, the car chase takes about 5 minutes. So you've got this movie and you've got a car chase and you're like, okay, in my mind, this is about a 5-minute car chase. Okay, everything you write about the car chase should take place within those 5 pages. It should be about 5 pages long. Maybe even a little shorter, because they're going to make it a little longer as long as they want to make it, as long as the budget wants to make it, however many cars they want to crash, whatever, okay? So you generally kind of want to use that as a guideline. If you feel like this element should be X number of pages, then keep that element within that kind of page parameter. So all of you writing blow-by-blow action scenes, yeah, you need to stop that because you're ballooning your page length, plus that kind of stuff is boring to read. So don't do that. Follow the formatting conventions. Realize that over the course of your screenplay, 1 page will roughly equal 1 minute of screen time. Number 4, do I have to follow formulas like in Save the Cat? Okay, well, this is actually one of those wrong questions. It's not a bad question, but it presumes some things that are just not true. And it implies the one asking the question doesn't understand how stories work. And as a screenwriter, you have to understand how stories work. The thing is, for a story to actually work, it has to include some specific elements. There have to be things that must be there, or it's just not a story. So in an oversimplified version of this, the story starts with a status quo. There's a disruption of the status quo. The protagonist then starts pursuing a goal, and they get it or they don't. And at the end of that, a new status quo is established. That's generally what should happen in a story. A sidebar here, by the way, linked below is the complete guide to story structure. Right now, as I'm recording this, it's free, 100% free. But I'm working on an expansion of that guide, and in January of 2022, it won't be free anymore. So if you want the free version that walks you through all the parts of story structure, be sure to grab that link below, complete guide to story structure, linked below. So one part of screenwriting is the story. You got to make sure the story is functioning. You got to include the parts of story that work. But there's another part of screenwriting, and that's the experience of the audience. And everything that has to do with the audience is considered storytelling. So a screenplay has to have both story and storytelling elements. Now, one of the things that holds true is many of these formulas, and Save the Cat is no exception. They blend story and storytelling elements together to create a kind of formula that particular author has identified as a formula that works. But there's other formulas. You might find things like the story circle or hero's journey, and there are others. But they all emphasize different storytelling elements, and yet the story elements for any of those are all the same. So they all tend to have the same general story elements. They might exclude one or two, but they have different storytelling elements. So that's why they all feel different, but they're really all the exact same thing. There's story and there's storytelling. But do you have to follow a formula? Well, no. But you do have to include all the elements for a story. You then have to choose how to tell that story, because that's part of the storytelling part. And your storytelling may differ from popular formulas. But as long as you're following the story and using storytelling tools to engage your audience, you're doing just fine. So make sure that you learn what makes a story a story. Learn the tools you have at your disposal to tell stories, and then you can choose which formulas to follow or even create your own. Number 5, camera directions in a screenplay, yes or no? Ooh, let's fight, because the answer is yes and no. But I want you to think about it this way. It's no. The answer is no. Do not include camera directions if you haven't sold your script. Don't do it. It's a yes if you have sold your script and now you're doing revisions for the shooting script and the director's asked you specifically for them to be included. Okay? Otherwise, it's still a no. So if you're thinking of putting things in your script like pan or dolly across or push in on or stuff like that, okay, don't do it. Why? Because there are two kinds of scripts. One that you sell and one that gets made. After you sell a script, there are revisions to prep for shooting. So one's called a spec script, that's the one you sell, and another is called the shooting script. That's the one being shot. So at this point, you might be thinking, okay, well, what's all the fighting about? Because Jake, you pretty much just told me that no, I can't do it. And that's because you actually can do it, but not in the way you think. So let me describe a scene for you. Floor to ceiling windows. A leather sofa in the middle, a wet bar behind, and a framed photo of Jack sporting a small tulip lapel pin on his blazer. Now, in that description, did I use the word pan or close on or zoom in on or anything like that? No, but that's exactly what I wrote. We start big, we pan across the room, we focus on the wet bar and then the frame and then on the small lapel pin that Jack is wearing on his jacket in the photo. The only way you see that lapel pin is a close-up. So am I directing the camera? 100% I'm directing the camera. But does it seem like I'm directing the camera? Not one single bit. I'm directing your eye, and that's what screenwriters do. You should 100% direct the camera, but you don't make it seem like you're directing the camera. We're halfway through the questions, and if you're finding value, please be sure to interact in some way. I would really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, all those things. It just helps others find this channel, and I really do appreciate it. If you're further interested in supporting this channel, there's also a Patreon link below if you feel so inclined. I would really appreciate it. Any support is really helpful. Okay, back to the questions. On to number 6. Number 6, Do I need to copyright my script? Let me first say I am not a lawyer. Okay, let me second say laws in other countries are different than they are here in the US, but most will track with what I'm about to tell you. To begin, copyright is established once you write something. You write a paper in school, it's copyright protected and you own it. You write a poem, copyrighted. You write a short story, copyrighted. You write a screenplay, copyrighted. The very act of you writing it gives you the copyright. Copyright is applied to expressions of the craft. So once you create something, as soon as you create it, it's copyright protected. The issue comes when multiple people claim copyright over a similar expression of an idea. So there's an idea, and you can't copyright an idea. Ideas have no copyright protection. They're ideas. They're not expressions of the craft. But if two people have a similar idea and for some reason have similar expressions of that idea, okay, now the issue is who owns the copyright? It's the person who can prove their date of copyright is earlier than the other. Now, generally what this means, especially for US citizens, my understanding, citizens of other countries can take advantage of this, okay? So you need to do some research and check for yourself. You would want to register your completed work, your finished script, with the US Copyright Office. This establishes a court admissible date of creation. And yes, you want to do this. Do you have to copyright your stuff? Well, technically it's protected by copyright as soon as you finish it. But do your due diligence and legally protect yourself by establishing a creation date and register it with the US Copyright Office. Can you register your script with the WGA? Well, yes, but it doesn't afford the same legal protections. The WGA registration is there to help in any case of arbitration for credits, which do come up from time to time. My recommendation is for you to register your script with the US Copyright Office before you send it out anywhere. You get your script finished, copyright it, then start sending it out. And down the road, if it starts generating heat and you want to register it with the WGA, then feel free to do so at that point. Number 7, does script length matter? Well, script length matters 100% of the time. If you're writing a half-hour TV pilot, you get 25 to 30 pages. Okay, the target, 27 to 28. If you're writing a 1-hour TV pilot, you get 45 to 60 pages. Okay, the target is actually 48 to 53. If you're writing a feature, you get 90 to 120 pages. The ideal target, 95 to 105. Remember, 1 page equals roughly 1 minute. You have to demonstrate you can tell stories within the normalized time frame for the medium you're writing in. It doesn't matter if you're writing for networks or studios or streaming services, doesn't matter. Page lengths always matter. So your 130-page feature, not getting any play. Sorry. Your 70-page, 1-hour-long TV pilot, nope. That 170-page swashbuckling epic that you know is awesome, it's never going to see the light of day until you are established and have proven you can play within the guidelines and you've had some success, meaning you can tell engaging, entertaining stories. Until then, you have to abide by the page length guidelines. Number 8, when do I need a logline? Well, you need a logline at 2 moments. One is for you and one is for others. The first one for you is when you're creating your story. And the reason you want a logline at this point is because you need to know you can boil your story down to engaging and interesting parts that can be expressed in a sentence or two. If you can't do that, you're going to have a hard time getting your script to others to read down the line. So before you spend all the time writing a script, make sure your idea is good enough to get play in the event your script ends up clicking on all cylinders. The second time you need a logline is when you are preparing to try and sell your script or garner the interest of some investors if you're trying to make the film yourself. Again, you want something that boils down to a sentence or two that gets across the idea of your story. This is what will entice other people to want to read your script. Now, the logline the second time around is probably going to feel a little different than it did the first time you wrote it, but it should still feel similar. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. That's perfectly fine because things happen when you write. So it's okay that it changes a little. Make the tweaks you need to make, and there you go. The second log line, though, is the one that you're going to include in query letters to production companies, producers, representatives to start getting your script out and about. So the first time around, writing a log line helps you know you have a viable idea. The second time around, it helps you sell and market your script. Number 9, how long does it take to make it as a screenwriter? Well, it doesn't take long to call yourself a screenwriter, but it takes a long time to get good at and even longer to master it, unless you have some specific help along the way. For most people, it can take anywhere from 5 to 15 years just to start getting noticed. And that doesn't include sales, which might even take a little longer. This is a long game. If you're wanting a quick path to riches and fame, okay, screenwriting is not it. It takes work, commitment, perseverance, sweat, blood, and some tears, and maybe carpal tunnel along the way. It takes time. And you can definitely do this for a hobby, okay? Absolutely, you can do this for a hobby. I know several people who just write for fun, and they just love doing it. But there are others who want to see their name on the screen. And for these, it takes time and focused work to get there. Number 10, can I blank, or how can I blank? Okay, short answers, can you? Yes. Should you? Depends. And this is really the issue. I mean, new writers regularly ask questions like these. Can I do this? Or how can you do that? And it's not that these questions are bad. They're really not. But they aren't taking into account that writing is a craft, which means it's never the same every time. Yes, there's similarities between screenplays. Of course there is. But every script, every story is a breathing and living organism. It is different from every other script. It might have some similar qualities, but it's different. And what this means is you can't just learn the tools. You have to learn when to use them. You have to practice using them. When I was first married, let's say I needed to hang a towel hook, like I want to hang my towels up, so I want to put a little hook in the bathroom. Now, I know I needed some tools, but I hadn't done it before, so I just grabbed my whole toolbox and I went to the bathroom. I got the hook hung, I got it all up, no big deal. But I'm lugging my toolbox, which is kind of heavy, the whole time. Now, I knew the answer was inside that toolbox, but I didn't know what exactly I was going to do until I was inside the bathroom. Now, having been married for 27 years, I don't take the whole toolbox anymore. I grab the drill bits, a pencil, a level, and the screws I need. That's it. And I head to the bathroom. Why? Because I know those are the only tools I need for that specific job. I don't need the whole toolbox. I have it at my disposal. If something goes wrong, I can go back and get something else, but I don't have to take it with me because I'm experienced enough to know what I need. Now, screenwriting works the same way. There are lots of tools you can load into your screenwriting toolbox. And when you're starting out, you're constantly asking questions like, which tool is the best? Or can I use a drill bit on this wall? I mean, the more you do it, the more you know which tool to use at the right time. Now, I've used this analogy when talking to people about my screenwriting fast track course. That course is meant to help you pack your toolbox full of tools. And I teach you how to use all those tools we talk about and what tools you should use and when you should use them. Yes, you could take the time to learn those tools and acquire them over the years. Absolutely. Or you can learn them quickly in the screenwriting fast track course. That's your choice. The question is, how long do you want to keep carrying the screenwriting toolbox with you to write a scene? Or do you want to just know which tools are best and just choose and use those? And off you go. And that's what happens in the screenwriting fast track. You get on the fast track by getting all the tools, learning how to use them. Then it's just a matter of practice to get good at using the tools that you need to use. So, can you do blank? Well, the answer is nearly always yes. But the better question is, should you do blank? Or even, what is the best way to do blank? And those take time to learn. One other thing you can do to help you in this endeavor of learning what you should know is read screenplays. Read lots and lots of screenplays, not the transcriptions, actual screenplays. And you will begin to learn to understand how to use various tools of telling a story. Here's a bonus question for you. Should I write all the episodes for the first season of my TV series? Well, I know you love that story. I know you think it's going to change TV or streaming shows forever, and it might, but no one, not one single person, will want to read any episode outside of the pilot before they make a decision to buy it. If you want to write it, that's fine. Just know that all those other episodes are probably never going to see the light of day. Even if it gets bought, there's going to be a writer's room, there's going to be other people, there's going to be producers, there's going to be input. All those stories are going to go away. You're going to be writing new stories. So if you're writing them to get a better sense of how the future episodes might work, so you can better refine your pilot, that's fine. I get it. If you're writing them to get more practice writing, totally cool. but please don't think that anyone will ever ask for them. If they do, that person is probably not the professional you think they are. Now, maybe they want to see all of them, maybe, but that's such a long shot that you're really wasting your time if you spend it writing any additional episodes. That goes for sequels to your original feature film too, so don't waste your time. Now, you may have other questions that I didn't answer, and you can do one of two things. One, you can drop them in the comments below. I'll answer them as I'm able if I can do that. Maybe I can deal with them in a future video. I can't promise you a time length on that though for when I'll get to them, but I do read all the comments, so if I can answer them, I will, and if I need to deal with it in a future video, I will do that. So that's one option you have. Two, you might want to consider applying for a spot in my coaching program, the Screenplay Navigator. As part of that program, we do calls twice a month, and there's always time to ask any question you want. And that's just one little piece of that program, though, that exists to transform you into a master storyteller who can tell stories that matter. Applying consists of booking a free call where we talk to see if we're a good fit for one another. There's a link below to the Screenplay Navigator if you want more information or to book a free call with me. So if you're interested, click that link below. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. And if it has, please be sure to like, subscribe, bell, all those things. I really do appreciate it. There are links below that you might find helpful. Be sure to check all those out. And when you go to tell a story, make sure you tell a story that matters. See you later.